My name is Mike Miner, and to answer the question that all of you have right now, no, I am not preaching to you this morning. So I see the worried look in all of your eyes. Please, no worries. Pastor Jim will be here very shortly. So most of you know me as the guy who travels in the region around here and puts together short-term mission trips to places like Haiti, Colombia, Ukraine, and those places. A lot of you also know of Sherry Wardlaw, Michelle Hawkins. They're in this congregation. Two ladies that travel to Tanzania a couple times a year, discipling ladies over there who in turn disciple others. Also, Paul and Jen Massara, who also go to this congregation. They have a tremendous ministry up in northern Haiti, in Cape Haitian, in the Mango Bridge area, and at the clinic there. So you know us. You get to hear some of the stories that when we share with you about our experiences and just what God is doing, and those are amazing. But you don't really get to hear a lot about One Mission Society and Men for Missions, and they do a tremendous job in their effort to get us from point A to point B and then back to point A again. And so this morning we are fortunate to have with us Bill Evans. He is the National Director of Men for Missions, so I guess that would make him my boss. It's a little scary, but I've had an amazing week with Bill, just getting to know him, getting to see his heart. He really does have a heart for people and especially a heart for the lost. And I have been just enjoyed having him. So without further ado, from the great state of Indiana, Bill Evans, please give him a South Albany welcome. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, South Albany Church. That's one of my primary functions today, is to say thank you. On behalf of One Mission Society and on behalf of Men for Missions, thank you for what you do for the kingdom of God. And that kingdom is here in South Albany. That kingdom is in Oregon as a state, the U.S. as a nation, and the world as a whole. And so thank you for what you do for the kingdom of God through your praying, through your giving, and through your going. And so I just want to take a little bit of time just to kind of give you a brief history of who OMS is, or One Mission Society. In the early 20th century, there was a telegrapher, and some may not know what a telegrapher is, but there was a telegrapher in Chicago, Illinois, who became friends with a Japanese national. And this Japanese national was a Christian, as was this telegrapher named Charles Cowman. And so this telegrapher challenged Charles Cowman and his wife Letty to come to Japan with him and to help change that nation for Christ. And so they agreed to do that, and there was another couple that went with them as well. And so in March of 1901, the Oriental Missionary Society began in Japan. And so through the years, they continued to expand in the Orient and to have ministry in other countries until finally they started, I think in 1941, they were in their first non-Orient country of India. And so they continued as the Oriental Missionary Society until in 1972 they changed the name to OMS International. And then they've continued in that name and continued growing until in 2009 they decided to rebrand and now are known as One Mission Society. Similarly, after the verse in the New Testament that talks about we have one Lord, one faith, one God and Father of all, and so we have one purpose, and that is to see people come to Christ, to see people discipled in the way. And so in 1954, an evangelist named Dwight Ferguson was traveling the world, and he noticed that the world of missionaries was mostly inhabited by women. And he said, where are the men? And why aren't they helping to fulfill the Great Commandment? And so he came back and looked for an organization that would help him to challenge men, to give them an opportunity to use their talents and their testimonies to reach the nations for Christ. And OMS agreed to take on that ministry, challenging laymen. And so in 1954, Men for Missions was started under the umbrella of OMS. And so Mike and I both are with Men for Missions. We're both OMS missionaries, but we work in the Men for Missions office. And so Men for Missions sounds like a sexist organization, but I don't know about your church, but in churches in Indiana, I find that men lag behind spiritually so oftentimes. They don't take advantage of the opportunities that are out there for them to use their talents and their testimonies to reach the nations for Christ, their communities, their homes, the nations for Christ. And so we continue to see that our mandate from 1954 is still very viable. Now, we also take women. The percentages are about 50-50 of men and women that we take on our teams, but we still feel like men are our primary focus. And so if you're a man in here today, I'm really speaking to you. And I'm asking you, what is your purpose in life for the kingdom of God? You know, this life is so short and eternity is so long. And we're going to spend eternity in one place or the other. And the primary purpose of this life is to take more people with us, to not have more and more people going to a Christless eternity. And so it's trips like Mike takes, like in February, he's taken a team to Colombia to do evangelism. And it's not uncommon on those evangelism teams to see more than 100 people a day make a decision for Jesus Christ. Now, that's the kind of ministry I want to be part of. And so I'll encourage you to pray about that and think about whether the Lord, whether the Lord would have you to go. And so, again, I just want to close by saying thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing for the kingdom, the way that you do, the way that you go, the way that you give, and encourage you to continue in the faithfulness. Thank you.